Hey, what's up? I'm just going to talk right now about history, but also martial arts. Just one thing I found really interesting. I'm reading the autobiography of Yukichi Fukuzawa, and Fukuzawa was one of these figures in the Japanese, basically working for the Japanese government, working to modernize Japan quickly. And this is just his autobiography, story of his life, and that sort of thing. And he spent a little time in iaido, and iaijutsu, is the art of drawing the sword. And Fukuzawa rather, was a friend of several samurai, and actually, when he was younger, for a while, he spent time lacquering sword scabbards and tying the cloth around the handle, which actually helps you grip the handle of the sword, and several things like that. He considered himself a critic of the sword, and so I guess he'd practice iaido. Again, that's the art of drawing the sword quickly from the scabbard. And iaido is often compared a lot of times to like Old West romanticized gunslinging. You draw it quickly. It's not just the shooting and the aiming of the gun, it's how quick you can draw it. Iaido is very similar. Samurai would walk around with their swords on their side, and it wasn't often, a matter of already having your sword out and fighting. It was a matter of how quickly you can get your sword out and cut somebody before they pull out their sword and cut you. That's Iaijutsu, or it was formalized into Iaido. Fukuzawa talks about, he says, quote, this is on page 165 of his autobiography, and he says, as a young man, I had learned iaiNuki, the art of drawing the long sword in an emergency, and I had frequently practiced it at home and at school in Osaka. I'd never heard of this. Not an iaido practitioner in an iaido system, but I have practiced drawing the sword in Japanese martial arts, but not in a system that was called iaijutsu or iaido. I have never heard of this, and maybe some of you have heard of this that practice it, but iaiNuki, the art of drawing the long sword in an emergency. How interesting. Now, is that just referencing the ability to draw the sword quickly, just like normal iaijutsu, or is this referencing something more specific, drawing it in an emergency? Like, it obviously has something to do with a quick draw, but what else is there? So I think it's interesting. There's an art out there dedicated to quick draw, the quick draw of the sword, not just sword fighting, but focusing on the quick draw. It's very interesting. So, if you want to check it out, it's the autobiography of Yukichi Fukuzawa, translated by Ichi Kiyoka. Alright. Pretty interesting read. See you later.